What is going on, everybody? Welcome to a very special edition of the Sports Beat with Richard Holdridge, presented by Georgia Alabama Sports Live. I'm doing a special episode because I've got a very special guest, and especially with everything going on in baseball, with the baseball playoffs, I couldn't think of a better guest than to bring on a former Major League Baseball player. He played for the San Francisco Giants from 1973 to 1985. Please welcome to the Sports Beat once again, former Giant shortstop, Johnnie LeMaster. Johnnie, it's been a while, but how you been?
I've been doing great. Trying to suck in all this good weather we're finally getting here, but I still feel bad for the people in North Carolina, Georgia, Florida, and where all the hell and hit with the storm and stuff. But other than that, all is good.
Absolutely. And our hearts and prayers are to those people that are affected by the hurricane era. I wanted to bring you on because when I found out about the passing of Pete Rose, passed away at the age of 83, I know that you played in a time where when you were first on the show, you talked about playing against the Big Red Machine, and Pete Rose was part of that team. What were some of your fondest memories of playing against Pete Rose?
Best player I ever played against, bar none. He came out to play, and he played hard. And I can be honest with you, he took me out a couple of times at second base, but even when he did, he reached his hand down there to pick me back up. But he was just that type of a player. And whenever they came to San Francisco and came to Candlestick Park, he would be over in our locker room more than he would his. And I would sit there and just talk baseball with him. He knew I was from Kentucky, and he was from Cincinnati, just across the river. But he always came over to my locker, and we sit there and we just talk baseball. And the amount of baseball knowledge that man had over the years that he played was just unbelievable. And I always just wanted to sit there and just pick his brain as much as I possibly could. But as far as pound for a player, there was, and when he came on the road, people would come to watch him play, just him. And you had the Big Red Machine. You had Concepcion and Perez and Bench and Foster and all those guys. But the guy that people wanted to come to watch play was Pistol Pete. Because he, Mr. Charlie Hustle, anything you want to call him, he was just a player that enjoyed playing baseball, and it showed. And people like watching him, and he was a ticket seller.
Yeah, there's no question about that. Pete Rose, the all-time hits leader with 4,256 hits. I remember I was a kid, and I was watching him as a manager/coach, a manager/player in 1986. And I just remember just the way he played, just diving headfirst into the bag. And he definitely was a special player, and he truly will be missed. And there's really talks, Johnnie, about him going into the Hall of Fame. He's truly a Hall of Fame player, but he was banned for life in 1989, and it's sad to see that he's not going to be able to see him get back into the Hall of Fame, because I do believe he's going to eventually get back into the Hall of Fame. But I know that he broke the cardinal rule of baseball, and we all make mistakes. We're human. But, betting on baseball as a manager, I mean, that's just been a big controversy. Does he deserve to be in the Hall of Fame, or should he be banned for life still? But what are your thoughts on Pete Rose eventually getting into the Hall of Fame?
Everybody's got an opinion, okay? I'm not trying to make anybody mad or glad. There is a rule that is put on the visitors' locker room door and the home team's locker room door. And I think it's 21B. It says if you bet on baseball, you will be banned for life. And it's on every single major league locker room door that you enter. Now, does Pete Rose have the statistics to be in the Hall of Fame? There is absolutely no doubt about that. Does Shoeless Joe Jackson have the stats to be in the Hall of Fame? Absolutely, he does. But now, if they do put Pete in, what are they going to do with Shoeless Joe Jackson? I think, in my opinion, if they put Pete in, they've got to put him in. But I truly think that he's probably going to get put in. Like you say, we all make mistakes, but I have a hard time with it, Richard, to be honest with you. I try to use the Bible as an example. Jesus tells us that we need to obey the gospel plan of salvation if we're going to get into heaven. And it's not me that said it. It's him and God. So you got to hear, believe, repent, and be baptized for the remission of your sins.
Absolutely.
Now, do these things. Are you going to get into heaven? And if their word is true, and I believe that it is, it's going to be hard to do. Now, if you break that rule, are you going to be banned for life, or are you going to be given a second? I think you have to keep the example out there and show the other kids and people that are playing baseball that if you break a rule like that, you're going to pay the price. But that's just Johnnie LeMaster. Now, Pete Rose is a friend of mine. I talk to him a lot. I love the man. I love the way he played baseball. I loved what he did for the game of baseball. Nobody ever in my era, because I came up to the big leagues in 75, and that's the year the Reds won the World Series in 75 and 76. And I was playing against them. I had just gotten out of high school, and I used to go to Cincinnati and watch those guys play. Then when I go out there on the field, it was almost a dream. Like, what am I doing out here? And I'm talking to Pete. He gives me his autograph. He was just as nice to me as he could possibly be. But, the commissioner of baseball is going to have a decision to make, and I hope he makes a good one. If they let him in, I'm not going to have any problem with it. But if they don't let him in, I'm not going to have a problem with that either.
I do think that, and I really appreciate you actually bringing just so that second chance. We've got to make sure we're forgiven as Christians, and so we need to just forgive people as a second chance. I'm not talking about people that bet on baseball, like Shoeless Joe Jackson. Throwing the Black Sox scandal in the World Series, the steroid era. I mean, if they took steroids, I mean, it was part of baseball. I mean, but I do feel, we forgive and forget and just move past it. But I think we're now in an era of baseball. There's just been a lot of changes, and I hope that, this game that we love, and I know that you love because you played it for so many years, we want it to be as pure as possible, but we also want it to be marketable and to see these stars. And I want to bring it back to your final year, 1987. You played for the Oakland Athletics.
I did.
Well, a legacy has come to an end. They played their final game in Oakland at the Oakland Alameda County Coliseum. It was a sold-out crowd. I remember as a kid, the A's were the dynasty. They won a World Series in 1989, should have won it in 88-90. I actually thought they were a better team than the Dodgers. It's just that magical moment by Kirk Gibson, and Oral Hershiser was just pitching phenomenal. The Reds ended up beating the Athletics in 1990. I mean, that was a big deal. And the Reds, they had Eric Davis, Jose Rio, Billy Hatcher. That was such a great team. But you look back at the legacy of the Oakland Athletics from the time Tony La Russa, Mark McGwire, Jose Canseco, all the way up until the Moneyball years when Billy Beane, just made them very relevant. And then, so what happened? I mean, why did the Oakland Athletics eventually leave Oakland, and now they're going to be going to Las Vegas in a couple of years?
Yeah, they will. And it's unfortunately, it all comes back to money. The guy that owns the team could probably pay some very significant salaries, but a lot of the free agents now just don't want to go to Oakland for various reasons. But the year that I played there in '87 was Mark McGwire's rookie year, and he was my roommate. And he hit 39 home runs that year. Didn't even play the whole month of April. They were trying to give him a job to a kid by the name of Nelson. He was a first baseman. He ended up getting traded to San Diego. But here's another thing about the Hall of Fame. I can attest to you, as a roommate, Mark McGwire was not taking any type of steroids, period. And he hit 39 home runs. He got bigger and stronger as time went on. Now, whether he took steroids later on, I don't know. But I do know that his first year that he played, that he did not take any steroids, period. He did lift weights. He took creatine. And when all these sports writers came up that he was on steroids, they just saw this stuff that he had bought over the counter that was sitting in the top of his locker, and they made a big deal out of it. But here's the thing, we're getting back to the Hall of Fame. McGwire, Canseco, Sosa, a pitcher for Boston. I'll get his name here in a minute. Roger
Clemens.
But there's some others that if they let Pete Rose in, even though he broke a rule, they need to let those guys in. Barry Bonds. Here's a guy that's got more home runs than the man on the moon, but he's not in the Hall of Fame either. But if we're going to forgive, we got to forgive all. But back to, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to get off the key here. Oakland has always struggled with attendance, even though when they were winning the World Series in the early, they won 3 in a row.
What was your favorite memory of playing for the Oakland Athletics and playing there? And really, you didn't really have to move. You go from the Giants to the A's. I mean, you could have just lived in the same house.
Well, I almost did. I was living in the same area, a place called Foster City, but I was renting an apartment there, and I just had to cross what they called the San Mateo Bridge, and it was a 7-mile bridge, and I was in Oakland because I was still living right on the bay, and it was very easy for me to get to the ballpark from where I lived on, even though I lived in the suburb of San Francisco. But I guess, to be honest with you, the highlight for me was having a teammate by the name of Reggie Jackson. It was the last year he played also, and he was a rock star. No matter where he went, people just gathered around him wanting his autograph, and everything that they could touch him or whatever that he was doing, they just wanted to be around him. And to be able to talk and get all the information I could out of him as far as his baseball knowledge, and it was just a great time being with him. But playing at Oakland was good because there's a lot of Giant fans that are Oakland fans, a lot of Oakland fans that are Giant fans, and when you get a chance to play for both teams, it's kind of a nice mixture of baseball, to be honest with you.
Yeah, and really, John, you're bringing back a lot of memories when I was a kid, because I was there 1989, the Bay Bridge World Series, Loma Prieta earthquake. And I remember kids at school wearing a ball cap that was half Giants, half A's. You remember when they sold those ball caps?
Yeah, it was, and that's they had jerseys made up like that too. And
oh, that's right. Well, let's talk about your San Francisco Giants, because you are a Giants fan. You played for the Giants. They made the move. That former catcher and three-time World Series winner Buster Posey is now president of baseball operations. I do feel the Giants are going to get back to their glory days. When I mean the glory days, the early 2010s, when they won 3 World Series titles and they went to the playoffs in 16, they went to the playoffs in 2021. I kind of feel like those special players that they had, and Buster Posey, he was a leader on the field. I mean, he was just an outstanding catcher. I think he's going to be a Hall of Famer. And I also think, with Brandon Crawford, Brandon Belt, that pitching staff with Tim Lincecum, Matt Cain, Madison Bumgarner, do you think that the Giants will ever rekindle that magic again and win another World Series?
I think Buster will do a great job. He's got a lot of work ahead of him to put the team back where it was in 2010, 12, and 14 with those 3 World Series. But right now, I'll be honest with you, it's hard for anybody to match up with the Dodgers with what they've got. And, you look at San Diego, I've been watching them play. Both of those teams have some guys that are going to end up in the Hall of Fame. There's no doubt about that. But if they put their draft together and they get a formidable pitching staff, and Buster knows how to do that, and it's going to take some work. It's not going to happen overnight. It'll take him 3 or 4 years to get a team on the field that can be competitive with all of those superstars that those other teams like the Yankees. And I think the Milwaukee Brewers have got a great team. The Astros, and you look at Kansas City now, and you look at the Orioles. Baseball it's getting back to where just about any team can beat any team at any given time, but that's good. That's what fans want. They don't want to go out and just see the poor White Sox. I hate what happened to them this year, but hopefully they'll get back in the game and be able to compete and win 80, 90, 100 games a year.
Yeah, Johnny, this is just an incredible sport. We are in the wild card portion of the baseball playoffs. Still got one more game to decide. Brewers Mets tonight, but the divisional series is set. How about the Detroit Tigers? Ended up beating the Houston Astros and went to 7 straight ALCSs. I'll tell you, the city of Detroit, the Michigan area, is in the center of the sports universe. I said that on my show earlier today. With Michigan winning the national championship, the Lions going to the NFC title game, and now the Tigers are in the divisional series. Last time they went to the World Series, they played our Giants in 2012. But that magic that the Tigers were able to catch, the Kansas City Royals are in the divisional playoffs after beating the Orioles. So you got some new teams in the baseball playoffs, the Guardians and the Yankees over in the American League. But in your opinion, is it a failure, obviously, if the Yankees don't win the World Series this year? Because it looks like everything is in front of them. The Orioles are out. The Astros are out. It seems like the Yankees have the clearest path to get back to the World Series.
I mean, unfortunately, that's probably a good possibility. Don't get me wrong. I root for the Yankees. I think they got a great team. Right now, Detroit Tigers, I think, are the Cinderella team. And it looks like anything in the world can happen, because I'm sure they weren't expected to be where they're at right now. And if you go back to the All-Star break, and even a little bit after that, they didn't get hot till the end of the season, but they got hot at the right time. And now they're in the playoffs, and they're going to keep on going. But when you get into the playoffs like this, any one team can get hot. And if whichever one team that is that gets hot, it's watch out, because you just never know what might happen. But my pick to win the whole thing, unfortunately, as bad as I hate them, is going to be the Dodgers.
Oh, as Giants fans, that hurts to say it. I've been so critical of the Dodgers. They have been the most overachieving team. They only have the 1 World Series title, and that was in the COVID year. They did that in the bubble. But man, I don't know, John. The Padres are going to give them a run for their money. I actually think that's going to be a great series.
I think the Padres have got a team that's just as good as the Dodgers, but I think the Dodgers have just a little bit more to go with than anybody right now, to be honest with you. On paper, they've got the best team. Now, whether they go out there and do it or not, that's going to be another thing. But I think with everything that O'Shaughnessy's been doing this year, and their pitching staff has been dynamite here lately, and that's just my pick as far as. And I told you I hate them. I don't want to pick them. But
No, me neither.
If I was going to pick a team, it would be the Dodgers this year.
Now I'm going to take off my Giants fanboy cap and say that the Dodgers going to the World Series would be great for baseball because we would get to see Shohei Ohtani. And if it is Dodgers Yankees, which I hope it's not, it would be great for the sport.
It would be. It would be good for TV and all that good stuff. But I still like seeing teams that haven't been there for a while, or somebody new, especially, look at Detroit. If they could get there, if Kansas City could get there, and some of these teams that you just never even think about don't get a whole lot of notoriety because they're not in New York or LA where they're getting all the press. And it can put a lot of light on some of these guys, how good some of these players are that you just don't see every day.
Yeah, and also the Guardians. That would be a great story. I know they last went to the World Series in 2016, came so close. But
Right.
I love these baseball headlines. And, Johnny, it's really great just having you come back on the show, taking time out of your busy schedule, and talking a little baseball with me. I know I'm excited. It's my favorite sport. I know it's yours. And so enjoy the baseball playoffs, and looking forward to seeing you back real soon.
Well, thanks for having me, big guy, and I hope you have a great day.
Absolutely. That is the former shortstop of the San Francisco Giants, Johnnie LeMaster, just an all-around great guy, a man of faith, and his goal is just to spread the gospel, and I just appreciate everything that Johnnie does as he just continues being a servant for the Lord. Thank you so much, Johnnie.
Let me put one more plug in here, okay?
Absolutely. Go ahead.
If all the people are out there, I want them to go to a podcast that I do. It's called Shortstop with a Shortstop.
That's right. I forgot to plug your podcast.
But I just now plugged it. A shortstop with a shortstop. Tune in on it.
Yeah, I've listened to it. It's a great podcast, a great spiritual message. Thank you so much, Johnnie, for plugging that.
All right. You have a great day.
Absolutely. All right, that's it. That's our show. Thank you so much, and we'll see you next time here on the Sports